Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We are going to get started right about 1 o'clock. So just hang tight for a few more minutes. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are so glad you could make it today and are excited to tell you about the NEEC program. My name is Krista McKellis. I am the Capital Tech Bridge Director and represent Naval Surface Warfare Center Carderock Division. I want to kick it off today by giving a quick background on the Naval X Tech Bridge and also mention there is an open poll as part of this Zoom brief. And we'd really appreciate it if you would all respond to the poll here shortly so the folks briefing have a better understanding of the audience. There's two questions. Are you an active participant in NEEC sponsored research? And also, have you ever submit a proposal to the NEEC BAA? So just quick background on the Naval X Tech Bridge. The Capital Tech Bridge is made up of Navy labs near or within the National Capital Region, NSWC Carderock, Dahlgren, Indian Head, the Naval Research Laboratory, and the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab. The Naval X Tech Bridges are a connected network that work to enhance collaboration between the Department of the Navy, industry, and academia to accelerate technology solutions to the warfighter, which is exactly why we're here today. A tech bridge also offers an off-base collaboration space, which is a more easily accessible place to foster a collaboration ecosystem. The Capital Tech Bridge off-base location is at the Garden in Alexandria, Virginia. When we can go back to in-person events, we'll be hosting events like these, like the event today, in person there at the Garden. I'm really excited about the event today and to introduce you all to the Naval Engineering Education Consortium NEEC program. The NEEC program increases collaborative research between the Navy and academia and ultimately gets technology and increased capability to the warfighter. We have a great agenda for you this afternoon. First up is Sally Sutherland, who is the NEEC director. She'll give you an overview of the NEEC program. Then Devin Gormley will discuss the broad agency announcement and the grant process. And then you'll hear from three of the NEEC site coordinators, the three NAVSEA Navy labs participating in the Capital Tech Bridge. That's Indian Head, Dahlgren, and Carderock. So just some quick logistics. Everyone calling into this brief today, your microphones are off. So please use the Q&A function at the top to ask questions. During the briefs, the speakers will respond to your questions when they're done speaking by typing an answer back, which everyone will then be able to see. And at the end of all of the briefs, we'll have an open Q&A where the speakers can respond live to any additional questions or questions that didn't get answered during the briefs that might have required a longer, more complicated response. We do plan to distribute the slides presented today to everyone who registered for the event. And I think that's it. So let's get right to it. Over to you, Sally, for an overview of the NEEC program.
Thanks, Krista. I'm excited to be here. As Krista said, I'm the Naval Engineering Education Consortium Director for the NAVSEA Warfare Centers, and I'm delighted to be here at this webinar. So slide 2. I'm going to take about 10 or 12 minutes and kind of talk to you about these topics. One, just a brief overview of the Warfare Centers. I notice most people, this is their first time from the poll. Talk a little bit about our STEM campaign plan, and then talk to you a bit about the NEEC program. And then, of course, as Krista mentioned, I can type up some answers if you have any questions. So next slide. So for those of you that may not be familiar with sort of the US Navy, it's big. They have 5 what's called system commands. So there's the Naval Air System Command, who takes care of all the planes for the Navy. There's the Naval Information Warfare Center System Command, does communications and networking. There's the Naval Supply, Naval Facilities, and the largest and 5th one is the Naval Sea System Command. So that's where I work. And under the NAVSEA System Command, we have 4 large shipyards, and we have the 10 warfare centers. And you can kind of see on this map, on this slide, that the warfare centers are around the coast of the United States, kind of with the exception of Crane there, right there in the middle, it does expeditionary warfare type work. So the next slide talks a little bit about what these 10 warfare centers do. And you're fortunate today to be able to hear from Carderock, Dahlgren, and Indian Head, Charlotte, Mike, and John. So that will be good. Each one of the warfare centers has their technical capabilities. So they're stewards of the Navy, something that they're responsible for. For instance, Panama City is responsible for mine warfare systems. Newark, Newport, submarines, and sonar systems. And so this is what these warfare centers, it's their mission that's important. And really to the warfare centers, what is the most important thing is really our workforce. You know, we want to be the best Navy in the world, and we need a strong, competent workforce. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we not only have a strong workforce today, but 5, 10, 30 years in the future. So it's very important. So on our next slide, we talk about our STEM campaign. What are we doing to ensure that we have this talented workforce that will be able to work at warfare centers in the future, that they're technically capable and that they have the right skill set? So NAVSEA developed their STEM campaign, and the NEEC program really directly supports all of these goals, but specifically supports goal 2 and 3, educating a future STEM talent pool, and working in partnerships with universities. So if we go to the next slide, I'll tell you a bit about the NEEC program. So as the NEEC program is it's a NAVSEA program run by NAVSEA, and has 3 primary objectives. The first is to sort of acquire academic research. So we have universities working on Navy problems that are important to the Navy. Each warfare center has its own challenges, and it's working on those sort of technology challenges. Secondly, the NEEC program, we'd like to be able to hire talented and students who even might get a sort of a heads up on some of the Navy technology. So hire talented students. And then thirdly, we like to develop a relationship with the professors and universities, whether it's kind of like a pipeline university or certain universities that have specific niche technologies that are important to certain warfare centers. So the next slide. So I'll just tell you briefly a quick history of the NEEC program and how it came about. It started well over 10 years ago, and it really was because there was concern about not enough naval architects. They didn't know if there would be enough students that would be able to come then work at a warfare center, and they were even worried that there wasn't enough to even have professors in the future to teach naval architecture. So it was a concern for the Navy, and what happened is they created a congressional plus-up, which then went to the University of Michigan, which has a very good naval architecture school. And they partnered with Carderock, whose one of its missions is ship design for surface ships and submarines. And Dahlgren, one of the other warfare centers, also participated. And over time, the other warfare centers realized that this is quite a benefit that we would like to, or all the warfare centers would like to participate with the universities and students on what they consider to be their technical issues. So it became a program for all 10 warfare centers over time. Then the Plus Up was finished, and it was a successful program. So with a NEEC program actually came in-house. So now it's not run out of the University of Michigan anymore. It's run out of the actual NAVSEA headquarters. And when it first came in 2016, Kurt Jenny was the director, and he did a couple of things I thought were really good. Before, we used to have contracts with universities, and he switched it, so now we have grants. And Devin will talk a bit more about the grants, which I think is a really good way to go. And he also established NEEC directors at each of the warfare centers. And so if you go to the next slide, I know you're wondering, who are those warfare center directors? If you just click one more time, Ashley, sorry. So the handsome looking lot there, those are our warfare center directors, and each one of them, represents a different warfare center. Unfortunately, this was taking last July at our NEEC directors meeting, and we weren't able to get together this year. So, but we do have Charlotte, John, and Devin there. Unfortunately, we don't have Mike, but you'll be able to see Mike in person in a minute there. And these are the people that you would talk to once you look at the BAA, and if you see one of the topics that correspond to a specific warfare center, you can have opportunity to talk to one of these NEEC directors. So next slide. So I'm quickly going to go over the BAA, and Devin's really going to talk about more. I don't want to steal your thunder, Devin. Proposal review, kickoff, internships, and our annual meeting. So next slide. Go through this really quickly because I think Devin will talk more about it. But the BAA was open last week, and there are 27 topics on there. So there's quite a bit of information, whether machine learning or testing or lots of different technologies in those topics. There's the link. The link is also on the agenda page. It closes October 30th. And if you're interested in it, you have to apply through grants.gov. And again, Devin can talk a bit more about that. From our perspective, the evaluation criteria is really based on two things. Technical, will this project benefit the Navy potentially in the future? Is this useful for the Navy? And then student participation. So, and it's very flexible, whether the student participation is, say, 2 students working on a master's, or a group of undergraduate students doing test and evaluation, or 1 PhD. It is very flexible, and it allows interaction between the principals, so the professors and the NEEC directors. And I think Devin will talk a bit more about that in a bit. So next slide. So as I said, the BAA opened last week and it closes October 30th. Once all the proposals are in, all of the proposals then are sent to the respective warfare centers. They have a team of experts that will review them. And the goal is to then notify the award winners in January or February. And this year, for the first time, we're going to award all of the grants on April 1st. So this should allow the professors opportunities to find students and get things running and going for the fall academic year, or if there's something available, they could even start in April. That allows them, gives them some time to do that. So once the awards are made, the NEEC directors will appoint mentors, and the mentors are sort of the scientific experts on that specific topic. And the mentors will visit the universities, they'll visit with the professors, the students, see how the research is coming along, the projects they're working on, explain the expected yearly report, which is pretty simple. And they're really encouraging the students to participate in summer internships. Next slide. So there's a variety of different internships. The one that we use the most is called NRE, Naval Research Enterprise Intern Program. It's run out of ONR. The deadline's early, so make sure that, you know, if you have students for the upcoming summer, that they apply early. And we also have other programs, SMART, NADP. There's different ways that students can come work at the warfare centers for the summer. We also have a biannual meeting, a national meeting, where every other year we encourage all of the NEEC schools to come to a specific warfare center. We have poster sessions, we have presentations, we have tours for the students so they can see what it's like if they had not had an opportunity to work there for the summer, what it's like to work at a warfare center. And the NEEC directors do try and be coordinated. So if we have students at different warfare centers that may want to work on a different coast, try and get the best students at the best warfare centers. Next slide. This is a bit of motherhood and apple pie, but just a kind of a recap. We have the Navy mentors who then visit the universities, as I mentioned, meet with the professors and talk with the students. We really want to have a nice relationship with professors, because we feel that professors might know students that would be a good match for a warfare center. Not every student, you know, is necessarily a great match. They want to make billions of dollars right from the start. Maybe a warfare center isn't the exact best place, but if they would like to work for the national security, national defense, if some prior military experience, or they just kind of want to work for something bigger than themselves, you know, nonprofit type thing, those could be really good matches for working at a warfare center. And also we try and we want the mentors to talk to students, work hard, great opportunity for the students to come work at a warfare center. There's a lot of, get a lot of responsibility quickly. It's working at a warfare center. It's a good place to be in. It's also important that we have students that can get a clearance, which means the majority of them it means pretty much all of them have to be US citizens. So that's important. The students need to be US citizens. Okay, next slide. So the last two slides, and I think I'm on time here, so that's pretty good, is just to kind of give you an example. I'll kind of keep these up for a minute or two. I know the font is a bit small, but it shows you the varied universities that we've awarded to in the last 3 years, and then sort of some of the different topics. So I'll just kind of keep that there for a minute, let you kind of look through that if you're interested of some of the different topics we've awarded. And as I mentioned, and I think Devin will talk about this, but the grants are usually between 100 and 150K, but they can be less. It's very variable. And typically for 3 years, so 100K, say, per year, so say 300K total per year. So the next slide, show you some more. Again, if you just want to peruse those are some of the, again, some of the topics that have won in the past and some of the universities that we currently work with now. And I think the next slide is just questions. So I think I'm on time, and I believe Devin is our next speaker.
Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Gormley, and I am the grants officer at NSWC Indian Head. I am the person that put puts the BAA in place, and then I have a specialist that works with me that puts the actual grants. She works on the grants and any modifications that are done to the grants, and I am the signature authority for signing those grants. In regards to the BAA, Sally went over some of the high points. The opportunity is going to be open until October 30th. It closes at midnight on October 30th. In the past, we've had some issues with the timing of, some of the other opportunities on grants.gov always close at midnight, and ours was set to close at 4 p.m. And so we got a lot of questions on that. So yes, it closes at midnight on October 30th. And the timeline for award. So once it closes, I go through all of these submissions and organize them for each Warfare Center director. And once I go through them all and organize them, the Warfare Center's directors will then put together a team to evaluate your proposal based on the criteria of technical and student participation. And I will say the student participation is a very big factor. Because one of the goals of NEEC is to get students hired by the Navy. So keep that in mind when you're putting your proposal together, that, student participation is very important, as well as the technical factor. Once the Warfare Center POCs, the NEEC directors have your proposal and they're going through it with their evaluation team, then they will give me the evaluations back and let me know who they're going to award to. This is the part that takes the longest, I would say, is once they have identified who they're going to award to, we submit all the information to our comptroller to generate the purchase requests to get the funding. That's I would say the long pole in the tent of, the whole process is making sure the funding comes through and we can get your grant awarded. Let's see. Then the other piece of it is if you don't end up getting an award, we have those evaluation sheets from each Warfare Center director to be able to tell you, what could you have improved on, or what can, what were we interested in your research, but there was this one piece that, we weren't so sure about. So you'll get those comments back. And the other thing is, so when you're putting your proposal together, because I saw most people that are on the webinar have not put it together a NEEC proposal before, please pay attention to the directions so that it winds up in the correct place. They're on the form 848 that you submit. There's a place where you need to put the Warfare Center director's name. I would suggest that you put the Warfare Center director's name on that and the technical proposal, because the technical proposal, I have to open every single one to figure out who it belongs to. So if you're putting the Warfare Center director's name for your topic on everything, it ensures it'll go to the correct place. And as Sally said, one of the main questions that we always get is about approximation of funding, because you're putting together a budget for your proposal. And in putting your proposal together, it's really, yes, we don't have an unlimited amount of funding, but it's based on, it's an approximation. They're about 100 to 150K per year, a base and 2 option years. So about 450K total. But we always get a lot of questions. If you have a specific question regarding funding availability, or a specific topic, contact that Warfare Center director. If you have a question about submitting your proposal to grants.gov, or a specific form that's on there, or you need help with it, contact me. So if you have technical questions on the topics themselves, Warfare Center director. If you have questions on the BAA or submitting a form, contact me. And my information is on there. My name's Devin Gormley. And submit any questions that you have to this, to the question and answer, and I can turn it over to John.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Wilkinson. I'm the Science and Technology Business Area Lead at NSWC Indian Head, and I want to talk about the specific projects that are available for us. Sally did a good job of describing the warfare centers overall, and we'll take a couple of us will present what we're doing in our specific area. Ashley, could you go to the next slide, please? So as an overview for my warfare center, the technology area that we're acutely focused on is energetics and getting energetics to the fleet. So I think these slides will be provided to you, so I'll let you read the mission statement above, but the three pictures show examples of Indian Head either workers or the work that we're doing. You can see a manufacturing technician filling up 2.75-inch warheads. You can see the cartridge actuated device lifting the person out of the ejector seat. And then you can see an EOD technician, a bomb technician in a suit doing their work. These areas, thrust areas of range, effects, signatures, and safety, perhaps to a university audience might seem a little bit applied for the basic research call, but I can guarantee you there's a humongous number of basic research challenges in these thrust areas of range, effects, signatures, and safety. In fact, although the BAA call has only been up for a couple of days, we've already had excellent questions about how to support these areas. So this slide set should help if you plan to propose to Indian Head understand in more detail what we're looking for. Next slide, please, Ashley. As far as locations and capabilities, our home base is in Indian Head, Maryland. We have 2 large campuses there where we do the energetics manufacturing work, and we also do the work, the EOD technology work. You can see that we have areas all around the country as well where energetic materials are either stored or there's some kind of fleet need to keep them as well. So so part of the dialogue was you should come to a warfare, your students, we want your students to come to the Warfare Center in the summertime. You know, there's also opportunities for university professors to work in these areas as well. And as you see the 3 of us present, you'll see there's quite a lot of location opportunity for us. Next slide, please. So I like this slide. Someone put it together for our command. It does a good job of sharing the molecule to mission message that we have for energetics across the entire Department of Defense. In the top collage, you can see the basic research scientist doing some analytical chemistry work, and then it's scaled up to a manufacturing process. And then ultimately, what we do is we make and test ordnance. And so this video here is showing Cobra gunships firing 2.75-inch rockets where the warhead and the propellant are both manufactured and loaded at Indian Head. And these are some tests that are being done on a West Coast test range. On the second collage, the one on the bottom, we're showing cartridge actuated devices where where the lifting set that performs a ejector seat operation occur. And we perform this entire process in our command. We do extensive modeling on the G loads that a person, the person in the aircraft would experience, all the safety tracking, and of course, these are especially unique energetic items because they're so-called man-rated. You have to have 100% success ratio when you operate this, and the timing is obviously so critical. You got to get the canopy out of the way before you lift the person, and then you want the rocket to take off once the person is out of the way of the vehicle so the black blast doesn't hurt them, and so forth. And so it's very complex, and a lot of work goes into it. Fortunately, this doesn't occur very often in the fleet where ejector seats have to get pulled. But one thing that's quite satisfying for our command is every time the 15 years that I've been at Indian Head, every time a pilot pulls the ejector seat, eventually, that it's all worked so far in my time here. The pilot actually comes back to our command, and we talk to them about, you know, what we did to get them out of the cockpit safely, and they talk to us about the experience. It's very helpful and a really good opportunity if you want a you know, a position in national security in the future to be exposed to something like that. Next slide, please, Ashley. So here's a summary of, we thought this would be helpful to show some of the current programs that we have. So you can see the top one with Brigham Young University. You know, in general, it's difficult to get energetics out to a university lab. So in the first case, we're letting the binder system, which is not an energetic compound, it's a thermoplastic, and that the diagnostic of that material is being performed at BYU. Vanderbilt does have a small capability to do welding operations, and so they have some thermite compounds that they're testing out. And this is a good example of a sort of a symbiotic relationship with a warfare center needs and a university where they have a more commercial application. You can, you probably wouldn't be surprised to know that the kind of slow burning welding materials, which are ideal for welding, are not what the Navy's interested in, is much more faster burning rates. So all the formulations that are developed at Vanderbilt that don't work for them are, generally speaking, ideal for us. So it works really well. And then a couple of advanced diagnostics. That's a great way for universities to help the needs of the warfare centers. And then finally, another university that has a small program to do with energetic materials, and their metal printing capability is something that we're working on. So here's an example of the current programs that we have. And on the next slide, I'll talk about the kinds of projects that Indian Head, my warfare center, is looking for next year. You see the 5 research areas, several related to energetics, and then we have the responsibility for chemical, biological, and radiological defense as well. So those topic areas 4 and 5 are new for our command. We're assuming those responsibilities, so looking for biology type performers as well. Just like actually Devin and everyone has said so far, what we want to do is use this as an opportunity to increase the visibility of the naval warfare work that we do. It's very important to us. Each of us are very passionate about it. We want to make sure that students who are capable of coming to work for the Navy one day has good exposure to it and has a chance to learn it. Like Devin mentioned before, the typical awards are something like $120K a year you know, in detail. I don't have a single award that's exactly that amount, but that's the approximate for us. And I'm going to step off the stage and let the next person up, but if you have any questions specific for me, please mention my name, John Wilkinson, in the chat area, and I'll respond as the next people are coming up. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Young. I'm Director of Academic Engagement for Naval Surface Warfare Center. Next, please. And we see from our division overview, we have 10 warfare centers, and the people you're hearing from today, our colleagues at Indian Head, are highly involved in energetic materials, chemical, biological defense, and a lot of the advanced materials work that are needed across the board for all of our engineering problems. Carter who you'll hear from next, is where the fleet begins. So these are your hydrodynamicists. They're experts in signatures from acoustic through RF on platforms. What we do at Dahlgren is actually the systems integration piece. So we take the basic research we have in materials, electronics, and other pieces, integrate them into these hulls, unmanned aerial vehicles, potentially satellites, ballistic missiles, and turn them into certified, safe, effective weapon systems. Next, please. Key capabilities that we're emphasizing are digital engineering. We have quite a bit on the advanced cybersecurity combat system engineering side. We're the lead for electric weapons and directed energy weapons technology. So RF through lasers. We do quite a bit with naval strategic systems and development of EOIR RF sensors for search and track, target prosecution. We also do quite a bit of test and evaluation. We have a pretty sizable explosive experimental area, as well as an area where we can fly aircraft, perform energetics work against surface platforms. We're also a member of the National Cyber Range for testing of an entirely different type. And we work with our Dam Neck detachment down in Virginia Beach, Virginia, to provide integrated training systems and allow our sailors to have opportunities to learn how to use our weapons and look at the system safety aspects. Next, please. So, sizable organization. So we have over 3,500 people actually doing technical work at Dahlgren. We're the largest federal R&D employer in the state of Virginia. And NEEC program for us is key for developing the relationships we need with academia, both from a research perspective to help us to achieve all these various missions, and second of all, to identify the best and brightest students who can become part of our future workforce. And the emphasis that we are making now and will be making further in the NEEC program is to really emphasize this hiring chain opportunity. So provide meaningful real world work so the students can learn the trade, become engaged in our type of work, and allow us to identify and recruit people who can help us move forward. Next, please. The current portfolio that we have running in NEEC, we have quite a few programs that are executing in everything from sensors and AI through model-based systems engineering at Virginia Tech, plasma physics. A lot of the recurring themes here are the directed energy side. So what can we do with high voltage plasma characterization? Hypersonics remains a topic of interest going forward, both for things like refractory materials for reentry vehicles, high-speed flight, through through manufacturing of materials for these applications. And next up. Similar to our other warfare centers, we're looking at our opportunities less than about 120,000 per year for 2 to 3 years. I'll state that the opportunities are extremely competitive due to the available funding for new projects. One thing that we've kind of fallen victim to this year, if you will, is previous grants. We'd had some very inexpensive first and second year efforts, and then with a very large amount of money in the out year for year 2 or year 3. We're probably not going to look as favorably on that going forward because that reduces the flexibility we have to allocate funds. So one thing that we're looking for in a competitive proposal is a fairly flat funding profile that's relatively easy to plan against in the future. As we develop new products, and if we can identify areas where we can spin off efforts, there's nothing that stops us from executing cooperative research and development agreements or finding additional vehicles, including helping you work with ONR to find ONR grant money to expand the portfolio. That's one thing I'll say that we're doing right now is kind of emphasizing smaller grants so it could award more and a relatively flat funding profile. Number one task for us this year is to really enhance this hiring pipeline. Again, the two thrusts here are to address our critical technological challenges, but the second is to provide students with access to, both undergraduate and graduate students, access to internships, hiring opportunities, and ultimately increase our hiring pipeline in the out years. Next, please. You read details of our specific topics in the grant offering. These are just some bottom line up front in terms of what specifically we're looking for. For hypersonics, I've had some questions already about whether we're just interested in manufacturing processes or also the aerothermal code development, computational fluid dynamics. And the answer to that is yes. We're interested in technology that we can apply to hypersonic issues across the board. That also ties in very tightly with the high temperature materials. Those are broken out from hypersonics because we also have problems in directed energy, where we need things like refractory high energy or high entropy alloys. Those may be used in things like super high power vacuum tubes for radio frequency weapons, laser work, and so on. Software assurance and cybersecurity, still a very major topic. One of the main problems that we have is how to verify correctness or truth of complex software, especially complex software that incorporates legacy code, integrates with legacy combat system software, or it may be subject to transformation. Say I have to do codes randomization for cybersecurity. I still need to prove that software is safe in a weapons sense. Directed energy, we have opportunities here that we're working jointly with NSWC Philadelphia on energy storage and power handling. We're more interested in the weapons side, and Philadelphia is more interested in things like energy storage for electromagnetic catapults. But we're working very tightly with them on these topics. Huge problems we have right now are very high rep rate, high current, high voltage switching is a current major need. Next, please. Finally, autonomous systems. One of the main areas we're interested in is integrating distributed sensors into distributed weapons platforms. Think in terms of swarming behaviors. What sort of pre-programmed and emergent behaviors can we have in distributed forces, bearing in mind that they have to meet certain safety and surety requirements? For advanced EM, we're interested in looking at advanced assistive visualization, specifically including augmented reality, virtual reality, to help us visualize EM phenomena. Think of this in terms of understanding co-site interference between hundreds, literally hundreds of antennas on, say, the island of an aircraft carrier as it interoperates with the antennas on aircraft and drones. We're also looking for novel approaches, including AI/ML-enabled capabilities to help us understand the electromagnetic environment around platforms and handle an ever more dense environment. And we're always interested in signature reduction on apertures. And finally, the system safety topic is much more tightly focused than most of these. We're looking specifically for an AI agent to work in a model-based systems engineering context to help ensure that we can develop traceable requirements, trace our functional decomposition back to those requirements, and so on, so that we can have a complete end-to-end trace of system safety requirements across an entire acquisition lifecycle. Next, please. So just a brief overview of the work we're doing at NSWC Dahlgren. Again, we're the system integrators. I'm going to hand this off to Ms. Charlotte George, who will discuss the requirements for Carderock, which is where we really begin our adventure in terms of making these naval platforms. Thank you for your time.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Charlotte George. I'm the STEM and Outreach Program Director at Carderock. I've been managing the NEEC program for the past couple years. So just like the other NEEC coordinators, I'm going to give you an overview of the research that we do at Carderock so you can better understand how your proposed work may fit into our efforts. And then of course, we'll talk about the BAA topics. So next slide, please, Ashley. All right, so this it's kind of an eyesore on your screen, so I apologize in advance, but I know that you guys are going to get copies of the slides. CARDARC is responsible for acting as the Navy's experts in ship and submarine design, so we provide support to today's Navy and tomorrow's fleet. So if you look at the right side of this slide, you'll see a timeline. And the first thing on that timeline is the Navy's first experimental model basin built in 1898 by then Captain David Taylor, and that was at the Washington Navy Yard. And so CARDARC's history starts in 1937, just before World War II, where the new site was approved to build the David Taylor Model Basin in the West Bethesda area, where we're currently headquartered today. So since our inception, we've established many new testing facilities that help us support the fleet, both here in Maryland and across the nation. And when you get the copy of the slides, you can see that this timeline calls out our major facilities like the Maneuvering and Seakeeping Basin and the stand-up of the Combatant Craft Division in Norfolk, Virginia. And these facilities are important because it's what really supports our core equities, which are also listed on the slide. So we support these equities full spectrum, full life cycle, and they are, I'll read them very briefly. Ship design and integration, hull form and propulsion, structures and material, environmental quality, vulnerability and survivability, and signatures and silencing. So in order to pull off our research and support in these areas, we do partner with government, industry, and academia, NEEC being one of our primary tools or collaboration mechanisms for academia. And just a quick note about how many employees we have. We do have about 2,500 civilians that work for CARDARC and one Navy captain. So almost 1,600 of those employees are scientists and engineers with expertise in backgrounds like mechanical engineering, naval architecture, chemical, computer, environmental, materials, and electrical engineering. So NEEC is a very valuable tool for us to connect with those students and those professors that are building up knowledge areas in those respective areas. Next slide, please, Ashley. So what we do in our support of those core equities that we just talked about, like I said, it's full spectrum. We work across the life cycle of naval vessels and all the technologies associated with surface ships, submarines, boats, and small craft, and unmanned vehicles and vessels. So the photos on this slide kind of give a snapshot into what that looks like. We often describe what we do as cradle to grave, meaning that CARDARC participates in research, development, testing, and evaluation, starting with early concepts and design, continuing on through the end-of-life disposal. So in that pursuit, we develop novel technology and design tools. We often conduct model scale and full-scale research. We support acquisition and construction in conjunction with the shipyards. And we support acceptance and fielding of new assets with the program offices downtown in the Navy Yard. And we even work with the fleet for refurbishment, modifications, and in-service engineering support. You'll probably be aware of the major established programs that we work with, like the Virginia, Columbia, Seawolf class submarines, the DDG-1000, DDG-51, and littoral combat surface ships. But we also support emerging programs like the Navy's new attack submarine and unmanned surface vessels. Next slide, Ashley. All right, so back to why facilities are so important to do that work. CARDARC Division is actually one of the most facility-intensive research and engineering activities. Our mission requires all these facilities to conduct necessary research and validate analysis techniques, old and new. And the reasoning behind that is even as digital tools improve and we continually refine them, validation tests will always be needed to ensure that the ships that we deliver meet performance specifications on time and on delivery. So you can actually find information on all of these detachments on our public-facing website, navsea.navy.mil, if you go into the CARDARC section. But just to point out some of them, the Southeast Alaska Acoustic Measurement Facility in Ketchikan, Alaska, is the Navy's primary acoustic engineering measurement facility in the Pacific, and the Navy's only West Coast asset for passive acoustic signature measurements. We have a detachment in Puget Sound who primarily works to support the West Coast acoustic trials. We have an acoustic research detachment in Bayview, Idaho, which is a really neat facility located on the edge of Lake Pend Oreille, Idaho's largest and deepest lake. And they work on a unique set of large-scale submarine models and acoustic test facilities. Our Memphis detachment is home to the Large Cavitation Channel, where we test large-scale models of advanced ship and submarine systems in a very controlled environment, obviously. Over to the other side of the slide, the South Florida Ocean Measurement Facility is in Dania Beach, right next to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And that's where we have access to perform electromagnetic signature testing in a near-shore environment for ships, submarines, and remote vehicles. The Acoustic Trials Detachment is in Titusville, Florida, is the East Coast full-scale ship and submarine acoustic trial support for the Navy. And second to last, the Combatant Craft Division is our largest detachment in Norfolk, Virginia. They work very closely with the shipyard and everybody in the Norfolk, Virginia area. And they are actually the Navy and DoD Center for Excellence for Total Craft Systems Engineering, meaning they specialize in high performance, complex boats, testing and evaluation. And back to the very top right corner, you'll see the picture of Carderock Division, our headquarters. If you want to go to the next slide, Ashley, we'll take a deeper dive into that. So here you can see our base in West Bethesda, Maryland, where we house a wide variety of hydrostructural and acoustic labs. The very long thing in the center is a concrete tunnel where we house our David Taylor Model Basin, the nearly 3/4 of a mile long basin. And I don't want to spend too long on this slide, so I'll just point out at the very top, at the end of the basin, you'll see the Maneuvering and Seakeeping Basin, which is a world-class indoor wave-making pool that we built in the 60s, but modernized back in 2013. We also have several labs that support other hydro facilities, like I think the 36-inch water tunnel, the subsonic wind tunnel is on here. We have structural mechanics labs over kind of towards the left in the center, where we support fatigue and fracture testing and non-destructive evaluation. And right next to that, we even have an explosive test pond, which is pretty self-explanatory for its purpose. So there's a lot of labs, even in addition to this slide, that aren't called out. An obvious thing that in order to support all these model scale tests that we do have several model fabrication facilities that include both traditional manufacturing and advanced manufacturing to include additive manufacturing, other things such as the robotic welding lab, physical simulation labs, and so much more. So to kind of summarize all of these efforts into 3 categories, we have 3 technical departments. So if you go to the next slide, Ashley. Our 3 departments are Platform Integrity Department, our Signatures Department, and our Naval Architecture and Engineering Department. And our NEEC topics usually follow these department goals pretty closely. So the Platform Integrity Department conducts work in materials, manufacturing, environmental and energy, structures and composites, and survivability and weapons effects, as you can see in that picture right there of a full-scale trial. So they are our 2nd largest division or department by personnel. The Signatures Department is our smallest department by personnel, but it has the most detachments and PhD graduates. So they provide signature reduction technologies to the fleet through underwater acoustic measurement analysis, acoustic signatures, and electromagnetic signatures. So they are always, doing research in the world of hydroacoustics, structural acoustics, acoustic modeling and simulation, even guidance system and training systems, and then, of course, electromagnetic sensor development. Which brings us to our last department, our largest department, Naval Architecture and Engineering. So they really focus on hull forms, ship design integration, hydromechanics, submarine maneuvering and control, a lot of CFD, propulsor design and development, and they also house all of the work that we do in marine aviation and unmanned systems. So they're the ones that actually, their facilities include the David Taylor Model Basin and the Maneuvering and Seakeeping Basin we discussed. So next slide, please. So these are our current NEEC projects, and our NEEC projects work with subject matter experts from each department to create our BAA topics, which is why they mirror themselves so often, and they manage the NEEC research. So these are straight out of the NEEC proceedings document. So for all of the warfare centers, you can find that information on the link on the slide. You can see from our kind of the past years that we've been doing NEEC, we try to pull in new innovation every cycle. We had 4 new grants last year and 3 new grants the year before that. This upcoming cycle, we're probably looking at another 1 to 4 grants, depending on the proposals that come in and any direct, sponsorship that we can source out. They're from 7 different universities, and I think that's all that I want to say on this slide. If you go to the next slide, Ashley. So our topics, these are on the NEEC BAA, which can be found at the link on the slide. We actually had an error in the original BAA. So if you downloaded the PDF document from grants.gov before Friday, you will not have seen Carteroc's topics. So I encourage you to go there and look for, I think it's version 2, but there's an additional version that was added to include Carteroc's topics. This first topic on the screen is additive and advanced manufacturing research and development. That's aligned with our platform integrities department that we talked about. So the experts from that department are going to review proposals for that topic. They are looking for either a single project coming in at 120K per year for a single year with options or a second and third option year. But they're also open to the idea of funding several smaller funded grants on the order of like 20K instead of 120K to create a little mini cohort of students at different universities working towards this topic. The second topic that we have here is actually command-wide, hence the very broad title of Ship, Submarine, Unmanned Vehicle, and Associated System Concepts, Technologies, and Processes. That is really, if you take anything away from that topic, I hope you look at the last sentence, that our interests include the development of experiential learning opportunities for students to engage in collaborative real-world problem solving. So we put this topic on the BAA this year to explore small grants on the order of like 10 to 20K that we can have going at multiple universities across the nation for the next same cycle of 2 to 3 year applications. But we want to put emphasis on student engagement and providing those opportunities for students to get hands-on applied research experience. I think that we are in the same boat as Dahlgren, that we're looking for flat funding profiles with a 1-year proposal with optional second and third year options. And we really want to use this new type of model to continue relationships with past NEEC participants, to develop working relationships with new university college faculty, help prepare the students for successful careers in naval R&D, and in general, interact with more schools through NEEC so we can increase awareness of our internship and career opportunities within NAVSEA. And as far as tips for a successful proposal for Carderock, our measurements of success long-term for all of our NEEC projects are the number of college graduates hired with naval R&D experience through NEEC, the number and quality of relationships that we have with our professors to maintain and enhance those areas of expertise that we believe are our knowledge areas of interest, and to execute on educational partnership agreements. But I think that is all that I have. I don't have a next slide. So I think I'll switch it back to Krista. Krista, do you see any lingering questions in the chat or in the Q&A?
Sure, thanks, Charlotte. There are a couple questions in the Q&A, I believe, so I will pull them up and ask them live. And I'd also like to encourage everyone online, if you still have questions you'd like to ask the panelists, or if your question didn't get answered fully, please ask questions up in the Q&A part. We do actually have quite a bit of time, so please don't hesitate. Now is your opportunity to ask away to all of the folks that we had speaking today. So let's get to it. There's a question from Richard Mew that was for John. John unfortunately had to drop off early, so I will make sure that he gets your question, but absolutely please feel free to reach out to him directly. Okay, next question. If a proposal is with a co-PI, the yearly budget around 100K, can it support multiple students? How can the budget be flexible? Is there an option for faculty to join as a consultant, for example? Does somebody want to take that question?
Yes, I'll take that. Certainly, how the university structures its cost model for the grant is entirely up to you. If you can hit your objectives by having one of the faculty members be a consultant and to keep the cost model within what you'd like to propose, that's certainly an option. We are certainly agnostic in terms of how that's structured internally.
Great, thanks. There's another question about the NEEC BAA. I would like to mention that the link Charlotte posted to all, it takes you to the site, but it does provide a little error at the top. What you have to do is go search keyword and just search NEEC, N-E-E-C, hit go, and the FY20 BAA will pop up. So you should be able to find it that way. Next question for the panelists. Can multiple proposals be submitted for one PI?
Devin, are you around to answer that in regards to how many proposals could be submitted to each Warfare Center from a single PI?
So I know in the past we've had PIs submit multiple proposals, and then it depends, I would say, on if your proposal is similar to, the proposal you submit, if you submit it to multiple warfare centers and the topics are similar, if then, we try to do like some kind of collaboration between the warfare centers and the university. It just kind of varies. I know there used to be a topic or a sentence in the BA telling you not to submit multiple proposals, but I think we've kind of done away with that because we've gotten good proposals from PIs for multiple topics.
Great, thanks. Okay, next question. What is the eligibility criteria to apply for the grants? Devin or Sally, do you guys want to take that?
Yeah, actually, I'm just, it's actually all in the BAA. It describes all the eligibility, right, Devin? So they can read through it, determine if they're eligible.
But basically, I know we've had this in the past where we've gotten the same questions of, can it be, like, I'm trying to think about one of the questions we've gotten in the past about the eligibility. One of the main things is that we're trying to hire students for the Navy. So the students should be U.S. citizens that can potentially then be hired by the Navy. The other thing is that it must be a university that is applying for the actual grant.
Okay. Next question. Usually how many students can be supported? And can they be graduate or undergraduate students?
Actually, that can vary. So you can have, say, one PhD student. You can have a couple of master's students. We have projects that have 6 to 10 undergraduate students. It really depends on your project. So it is very flexible.
Yeah,
okay.
And I think some of the more Interesting things that we see sometimes is when you mix the undergraduate and graduate students together. So you have that near peer mentoring. I'll say that.
Great, thanks. Can one university apply for more than one proposal or more than one grant?
Yes, absolutely. We have single universities that they're currently executing more than one NEEC grant. Virginia Tech is on one side working cybersecurity, and then we have model-based systems engineering grant executing out of a different department.
Thanks, Mike. Does the PI need to be a US citizen?
No, but I mean, obviously it's preferable, but no, but the students do have to be US citizens.
Thanks, Sally. Let's see, can postdocs be supported along with a graduate student?
So that's a good question. I don't, Devin, have you ever had a question about postdocs? I know we funded postdocs, or there's a different program for postdocs.
I know we've funded some under NEEC proposals before.
You have? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
Is international collaboration acceptable?
Well, it's, again, the goal is for us to be able to hire US students. So I guess it would depend on what type of international collaboration it is. Maybe on some basic and applied research that US students are working on, that might be
okay. Do you know what the overhead costs allowed for a university to charge is?
throwing that back at Devin.
I mean, your overhead costs are built off of you have to budget in your overhead costs, but that's kind of a specific question. I'm not really sure what they're getting at. I know some proposals do have travel. They have which would be to go to the NEEC events that we have. They have materials costs, and they have tuition reimbursement. So those are usually the three that we see. But if you have specific budgeting questions, you can contact me.
Okay. There's another question that maybe you missed the first part of the brief when Sally gave an overview. It's what warfare centers are these related to? How can I find out? I think the question is what warfare centers are the NEEC topics related to, and it's the 10 NAVSEA Warfare Centers, and they're each detailed out in the BAA which topic relates to which warfare center. But we'll be providing the slides out so you can go back and check out Sally's overview.
Right. Thanks, Kristen.
Sure. For Charlotte, for these small funding projects, what costs do you have in mind since it's not enough for tuition reimbursement?
We've had a couple of examples in the past cycles. We basically, between 10 and 20K, we can help stand up or maintain programs that encourage lots of student engagement on naval relevant problems. The most, I think, easy example is like a senior design project. And so that smaller amount of 10 to 20K we're interested in it because it'll give us access to more students, give them more opportunity for, tasking that is closely related to what their work life will look like after graduation, as well as increase our network of universities that we can advertise our internship and summer faculty programs to.
Thanks, Charlotte. The next question, is NEEC related to summer faculty fellowship program? Does somebody want to talk about maybe some of all the other programs that are not part of NEEC? So summer faculty, NREP, because they're all open right now too for students and faculty to apply to.
Okay, and actually, Ashley, I don't know if you, in my slides, there was a backup slide called, it's right after the questions, it was University Outreach. I don't know if you could be able to pull that up. Right, okay, that's good. So, as Krista mentioned, NEEC is just one of many programs, and the summer faculty is run out of O&R, and there's information here on that. That's usually a 10-week program. The warfare centers would have to pay for it to bring summer faculty in. Typically, it's $22K for the warfare centers to pay for that. But certainly, that's a great opportunity for professors to actually come to a warfare center and see what's actually done there. In fact, I'd like to encourage professors to apply to that program. I don't know the deadline. That's a good question. I should look that up. But they're all fairly early, so keep that in mind. And there's also information on the NREP program. We talked about that. That's for the students to come in for the summer. Again, they're very early deadlines, as well as information on SMART, which is a really wonderful program for students. It's full tuition. They get a really wonderful stipend. They do have obligation for every year, I think, that they're funded tuition, then they are expected to work at a warfare center for a year. And pathways are as a way to hire students in for the summer. So there's a variety of different ways for professors and students to engage with warfare centers. Did anybody else have any other programs they wanted to mention that aren't on this card at some point?
This is Krista. Well, I'll just mention that I've got a really nice one-page fact sheet with all of the deadlines for FY20. So when we send out the slides, I'll make sure to include that fact sheet. The summer faculty program is currently open right now for applications for summer 2021, and that'll be open through December 12th. And then there's two other programs, the CAP, which is the Science and Engineering Apprenticeship Program, which is for high school students. Right. That's currently open and closes November 1st. And then the NREP, the Naval Research Enterprise Internship Program, which is for undergrad and graduate students to participate in Department of the Navy laboratory research during the summer. That is open now and generally closes November 1st. I'm not sure the exact date, but like Sally said, all these programs are open super early for next summer, so make sure you circulate them around to your students so they have time to get those applications in. All right, let's see. What are the rules about publishing the research data / results?
So the goal is to pretty much keep everything unclassified, you know, basic and applied research. So typically there aren't any rules. We encourage papers, we encourage presentations. There could be at some point where you might get more engaged with the Warfare Center, but typically we like to keep everything unclassified, and we do encourage papers and presentations.
Thanks, Sally. One more question for Charlotte. Could the smaller grant be used to supplement materials, instrumental costs, a student whose stipend is currently supported by another O&R grant?
Yes, I love that example. It's a wonderful example of what can be done with a smaller grant of 10 to 20K, and it'll help build sustainability in the university's student engagement programs.
Great, thanks, Charlotte. And then the last question I see here, and y'all feel free to keep asking if you still have some, is it encouraged to add staff research that will serve as a mentor to the students working on the project, not a postdoc or grad student, if it's properly justified? Or is it preferred to be an academic mentor?
So, go ahead, Sally. I'll go after you.
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, but they're asking if there's somebody that's not a professor at the university that might be, who's not a postdoc or a graduate student, somebody else at the university that could be funded to support this. I'm not exactly sure what kind of person that is.
I don't know. I wonder if there are staff researchers who aren't professors, maybe.
Yeah, they would still be like PhD. They would still be. I think if they're affiliated with the university, they could put it into the proposal.
Yeah, we have projects that have this exact scenario. And what it does is it does cost, you know, a little bit to do something like that, but it provides continuity between years. If they have students that are going in and out, usually those staff researchers stick around. So it's not uncommon to see that, at least from the proposals I've seen. I don't know if you've seen the same thing, Mike.
Yes, we have, particularly with schools that have a research arm, for example, Georgia Tech plus Georgia Tech Research Institute. Usually I've seen it where we'll have the research staff at GTRI, say, collaborating with an academic instructor at Georgia Tech. Some of this is before my time, so that's about all I could say on it.
And just to interject, Krista, I think we should definitely send out a working link, since the one that I had been using is not getting people directed. So along with the slides, you know, at the end of this and everything that we provide to the participants, we will definitely make sure we have the right BAA link. But the best way to get to that is exactly like Krista said, go to grants.gov and put in the keyword NEEC.
And then one last question, piggybacking on what you guys were just talking about with staff researchers, can adjunct faculty participate if they have students working with them? And I think the answer to that is yes, but I'll let you guys answer.
Yes, we have certainly done so, provided that the adjunct is working in their capacity at the university. We do have a little edge case where we'll have potentially Warfare Center employees who work part-time as adjunct faculty at universities. I probably want to avoid that just from a conflict of interest perspective. I don't think that's ever come up, but I can see a possibility for it.
Thanks, Mike. All right, well, we'll give another couple seconds if anybody has any last questions that they haven't gotten in yet. But otherwise, I just want to thank everyone for participating. I know the NEEC site directors are really looking forward to receiving and reviewing your proposals. So please do not hesitate to reach out to the NEEC site directors at each of the NAVSEA labs if you have any questions between now and I think 30 September, the deadline. So again, thanks everybody.
October.
Oh, I'm sorry, October.
Yeah.
October 30th.
And remember, we're only 3 warfare centers out of the 10 that are represented on that BAA. So you got our perspective, but if your research falls within another topic area that's not us, feel free to reach out to them from the point of contact provided on the BAA.
Right, that's a great point. Lots, 27 topics in there, so that's great.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Oh, one last question. Where can I see the recording of this? That's a great question. I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. But we'll let everybody know when we send everybody the slides. And if we post it somewhere, we'll send you the link. One more question in the chat. Is NREP only for students? Are faculty included in this program? So there are multiple, yes, NREP is only for students. They're for undergrad and graduate students. There's a separate summer faculty research program that faculty can apply to. We mentioned that a couple times. I'll be sending out a fact sheet that detail all of the programs available that are completely separate from NEEC for folks to apply to.
but we do encourage that the summer faculty or people applying for summer faculty work with students that they like to work with over the summer as an NREP intern. It takes a little bit of pre-planning because of the applications. Like the NREP is open right now, so that interested summer faculty professor would have to work with that student right now to put in their application for next summer. But we see a lot of benefits when we have a professor and a student come together for a summer.
All right, I think that was the final question. So thanks everybody again, and we look forward to seeing your proposals coming in and working together with you all in the future.
Thank you, Krista, for organizing this, and Charlotte did a nice job.
Take care. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to this presentation. Looking forward to some great topics. Again, communicate early, communicate often. We're here to help you out. Take care.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.